Now we must look at the problem with this current setup. As the years have gone by, the world has changed, and there has not been reform of the permanent member since 1991, and the demographics of the world has changed so much that the current members do not reflect the true makeup of the world. Also, there is no representation of any country in Africa, South America, or any country that is below the equator. There is no country where Islam is the dominant religion, and there are so many interests that are being left out of the P5. The reason this can't move forward is that no country on the Security Council wants to give up their veto power. I think that all countries need to put aside their differences in order to improve the world and to make sure that the P5 has representations from all parts of the world. The permanent members of the Security Council were decided to be the winners of World War II, and originally it was the USSR and the Republic of China, also known as Taiwan. But Taiwan was replaced by the People's Republic of China, and the Soviet Union was replaced by the Russian Federation. The Brazilian president brings up a good point in that there have been attempts at reform, but no real progress has been made over the past 6 decades. Since the Security Council has to approve most legislation in the UN, it is important that they have membership that represents the world and all the members have the security of the world in mind. Because of the polarization in the past 20 years, there has been so many vetoes and veto threats that have been used that nothing of substance can be passed, and in many ways it is reducing the power and legitimacy of the UN. I believe that moving forward in a global society, we need to be more cooperative with each other and make sure that all views are represented, especially in such a high committee. The more time we ignore this issue, the more time we are ignoring other issues, and they will continue to be ignored because of one country's interests. Now let's see what the current P5 members have said about reform. As we can see here, the United States brings about the criteria approach to evaluating each country as to whether it should be in the Security Council or not. As I agree with this method, I think it doesn't take into account such things as demographics and other important factors. Now let's see what the Europeans have suggested for solving this pressing issue. The French and United Kingdom delegates show that they are willing to expand the permanent members, but they are not willing to give up their positions. I feel as though this is just a lame duck solution with no real substance. Now it's time for me to quit complaining and offer my own solution to this problem. My solution is to replace the UK and Russia with any of the 4 countries I am about to suggest. These countries have a diversity of ideas and would bring great things to the table in the Security Council. Brazil, being a southern hemisphere country and one of the fastest growing economies and populations of the world, has shown so much leadership in the past decade over so many international issues, including the Iranian nuclear proliferation. They represent a part of the world that is on the next frontier for economic development and is a country we cannot afford to not have in the P5. Indonesia, with its large Muslim population, is a fast-growing economy with a lot to offer the global community and the Security Council. I think they would be a good addition from the Southeastern Asian region. They have an opportunity to really let the interests of a sometimes forgotten region be heard and to help promote global security. India, because of its large population and booming economy, also provides a more southern country and has developed so much and is industrializing in this day and age, will provide an interesting perspective on the current state of world affairs and global security. South Africa would be a great addition to the P5 because it's the most stable African nation and is a nation that has gone through massive political and social change and would be able to adapt to the ever-changing world, and would be a very good voice for the African bloc. And with its hosting of the 2010 World Cup, I feel like they are becoming an integral part of the world stage. As you can see from this graph, the US and China have the largest economies, so obviously they could not be kicked out of the P5. However, the UK and Russia have slowly been slipping in economy, and their power may be shifting in the world. Therefore, replacing them with any of the 4 countries I have suggested may be a viable option, as their economies are all growing quickly. Also comparing the populations, it is clear to see that the 4 countries not only have increasing birth rates, but also already large populations, and that the UK and Russia have clearly not shown any sort of population growth in the past 10 years. On the issue of changing the permanent 5 members of the Security Council, everyone has to remember that nothing can get done without cooperation, which has been lacking in the Security Council. I feel with cooperation, all of these problems can be solved and people can put aside their differences.